Individuals will gain in years, being 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, and later 30, 35, 40, and so on years old. But the opposite is true for humanity as a whole. Humanity was old to begin with and is getting younger and younger. If we go back in time, for our present purposes, we need only go back as far as the watershed between Atlantean and post-Atlantean life, when the catastrophe happened on Atlantis. We come first of all to ancient Indian times. Conditions were very different then. Humanity as a whole remained capable of further development beyond the 50s. Today we are only capable of developing in such a way in childhood and up to a certain time of our youth, for only then is our physical development directly connected with the development of soul and spirit, and the two run parallel. This soon comes to an end, however. In ancient Indian times, development in soul and spirit continued to be dependent on physical development until well into the 50s. People went on developing the way a child develops, and this only came to an end when they were old men and women. This is the reason why people looked up with such humility to their old people. During the time of ancient Persia, people were no longer able to develop to such a high level, but only into their 40s and early 50s, and in Egyptian and Chaldean times only into their 40s. In Greco-Latin times, this kind of development went only as far as the 35th year. Then came a time, you will remember, the Greco-Latin age began in the 8th century before the mystery of Golgotha, when human beings were only capable of development up to their 33rd year. That was the time when the mystery of Golgotha took place. The age of humanity then matched the age at which Christ went through the mystery of Golgotha. After this, the human race got younger and younger. By the beginning of the 5th post-Atlantean age, in the 15th century, humanity was only able to develop up to the age of 28, with no further development after this. And today we have reached a point where people only reach the age of 27, if this is left to nature. In the past, human beings naturally remained capable of development into a ripe old age. Today people must conclude such development as comes of its own accord and is tied to the physical body by the age of 27, unless they take up a spiritual impulse in their inner life and push on from within. People who do not take up anything spiritual remain 27 years old, even if they live to be 100. It means they have the characteristics of 27-year-olds. And with people refusing to look for inner spiritual impulses, we now have a culture and a social life that is 27 years of age. We do not grow beyond the age of 27 in our outer social life. This age now rules humanity. If we go on like this, humanity will go down to 26, 25, and 24 years, then in the 6th post-Atlantean age to the 21st, and later to the 14th year. These things must be looked into, and they should not be taken pessimistically. Instead, they should give us the inner impulse to go toward the life of the Spirit and set out on an inner quest to look for the elements nature is unable to provide. This is another point of view from which it is apparent that spiritual impulses are needed in civilization. The most characteristic people of our age, those who take the lead today, are people who do not get beyond their 27th year. The question is, what would really make someone a present-day leader? Well, let us say we have someone who is born and is very much alive, who does not take in much by way of tradition, but only what comes by nature, without undue influence from outside. This individual would be very much determined by what comes of its own accord. Education usually gives color and nuance to this in most people. But let us take a really typical individual who essentially shows only the characteristics of the present age. Someone born into poverty, perhaps, and not given an education that puts much emphasis on tradition, but who would only be influenced by whatever arises from circumstance. Such a person would grow up, would be very active initially, for it is part of the present age that one is active up to the 7th, 14th, and 21st year, and perhaps be a forceful personality up to his 21st year. But unless he is able to develop spiritually, then, being very much a representative of the age, he will come to a halt at the age of 27.